Board of Commissioners. Today is Thursday, August 22nd. It's 7:01 p.m. May we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Coyne?
Here.
Commissioner Grau?
Here.
Commissioner Leduc? Commissioner Leach? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Here.
Commissioner Tunnell?
Here.
Commissioner Harrington?
Here. Now I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for past Park Commissioner Bob Trinza, who passed away last week. On our agenda next is amending, adding, deleting any items to the current agenda. Does anyone have anything they would like to add or amend or change? Seeing none, we'll now move on to public comment for non-agenda items. Come on up. I feel like you're really close tonight. This distance, right?
Seems like it.
If you'd like to give us your name,
Sure.
that'd be helpful.
I'll give my name and spell it because it's a tough one. My first name is Jenna, but it's spelled Gena. And my last name is Romagnoli. It's spelled Romagnoli. I do have notes, so I'll try not to read too fast, but I know there's a time limit here. I'll try and stick with that. As I just stated, my name is Jenna Romagnoli, and there's two things about me that I think are relevant to what I'm here to talk to you all about. I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I live here in Park Ridge. They're school-age children. And I'm also a gymnastics coach with a huge athletic background in my life. I want to thank Gail, Jennifer, and Jim for corresponding with me via email over the past week because their emails were very helpful and gave me some insight into the issue that I'm here to talk to you about tonight, which is soccer field usage and space in Park Ridge. Based upon the information provided by Gail, Jennifer, and Jim, I do still have an issue that I want to raise with you that's significant to me, and I believe it's significant to other parents here in Park Ridge, particularly of athletes with FC Hawks. So I really appreciate your time, and I ask that you're all open-minded as we try to hopefully resolve my issue. I want to also note I am not an administrator at all with FC Hawks. I'm just a mom. And I'm doing this totally independently because the issue has caused me personal hardship. FC Hawks did provide me with some info I'd like to share with you that there's 275 youth soccer players with that club and that the organization is relatively new and growing. And that in and of itself is a concern where we don't have playing space in Park Ridge. Of those 275 children, 71% of the girls are from Park Ridge. It's a lot. 58% of the boys are from Park Ridge. So when you total that, that's 64.5% of these kids are from Park Ridge. So there is clearly a need from the parents' perspective in particular that we need, or we would love to have some Park Ridge field space for play. For example, I'm currently driving 3 times a week to Des Plaines to take my 3 children to soccer practice. And I'm spending about 3 hours in the car to do so because it's during traffic. And where I live in Park Ridge, and I pay taxes in Park Ridge, and I love Park Ridge, and we have amazing parks, this is very disheartening and frustrating for me as a parent. And I know the other parents are feeling the same. So I'm truly hoping that you, the board, can simply try and help us, your constituents, solve this solvable problem. Presently, the park board said they have 2 fields for non-PRS clubs, and that they've offered us playing time, and this is like homemade art. But I made a diagram of the days that are not available. And I think Nyridge is red and JC is blue. And as you can see looking at this, it's kind of a disingenuous offer because there's no consistent days. There's Fridays is the only consistent day. And for any of you who have kids in travel soccer, they play 3 days a week. So it's just, there's not really space right now. And I apologize for my homemade visual, but I thought it was better than nothing. Also, I mentioned that I'm a coach because as a coach of gymnastics, not soccer, 1 day a week simply is not enough for a kid who's serious about sports. And we want to give them the opportunity to excel and grow, and we want them to do that here in the town where they live. Ridge is not available from September 9th to 30th, basically, and JC is slightly more available, but then there's this week where it's not. So it's a problem. I just ask that you seriously consider allowing our children to use another park. There's Northeast Park, there's Southwest Park, there's Brickton Park. I don't know all the parks in Park Ridge, and I didn't look that up, but I just ask that you really take this under consideration. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Jenna.
Thank you.
I appreciated your visual. All right. Moving on, we'll do approval of minutes. I move to approve the regular board meeting minutes of Thursday, July 25th, 2019. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any concerns or changes or discussion among around the minutes? Commissioner Grau?
I did, I don't know if it's gonna show here. It was a silly thing again, but, July 3rd, was the fireworks, and it's because it's a holiday, not because it's a Friday, that it's a problem. So it said it's a Friday, and that's why Gail has a problem. I think you said, Gail, it's a problem because it's a paid holiday, right? For next year?
On page 4, under recreation report.
Thank you.
Is that where? July 3rd, fireworks.
You had to.
Yes, it's a holiday. It's
Yeah.
a holiday.
Oh, yes. So it would be,
Yes.
yeah.
It's a paid holiday.
So we just need to change Friday to holiday.
Page 5.
I read it on a different computer and I marked it on there. I'm sorry, I should have.
Fine. Page 5 on the minutes, page 7 in the packet.
Oh, there it is. I found
At
it.
the very top, the
It
first
is.
paragraph.
All right. Yeah, and then I had one other comment on my thing. When I voted no against Christopher Burke, it was primarily because they were not the lowest bidder. So it doesn't really say that on there. It says that I had a problem with the 10% markup, and it's a 10% markup from the lowest bidder.
Anyone else have any discussion points around the minutes as proposed? All right, seeing none, shall we vote on the changes as proposed by Commissioner Grau? All right. Voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved and approved. I have nothing to report. Next on the agenda, our attorney is not with us this evening due to a conflict. However, I will turn it over to Executive Director Mountcastle in case there's a legal update, but also for your update.
Thank you. I have no legal update. Well, they're kind of legal, actually. One of mine is. A couple of them are. So I will go into my updates. The first is dealing with the update on the Hinckley fire and our effort, Pajarma's efforts to get restitution or subrogation from the individual that was involved with the fire. We did hear from Pajarma that they have reached a settlement and it's a settlement agreement for installation on a payment plan. It's small amounts, but the individual's mother is cooperating in terms of payments to Pajarma. And then in turn, just a reminder, then we had $2,000 deductibles on that. Pajarma would get their payments, and then up until the time that we get the money, it'll be over a long period of time because of the dollar amount that they've agreed to, that they will give us a percentage of our percentage of our deductible back. So just wanted to update you on that. The next one had to do with our Hinckley property issue, the corner piece, that we did receive their certificate of purchase from the county. And so the attorneys are getting it assigned to the park district. And then as a reminder, the next thing that happens with that will be the sale and error. They'll go try to correct that with the current, the holder of the title. So they'll go back and get a sale and error on that tax purchase. So things are moving along with that process. So that's good news. And then the third item I just wanted to mention is the community engagement services for Oakton. As you can tell, it's not on the agenda tonight. We are still working to evaluate and look at the two firms and hope to have an agreement in the next month or so from one of the firms. So just to let you know, we haven't forgotten about that.
So it's your expectation to bring it before the board for consideration?
Yes.
In the next month or two?
Yes. That's all I had on my general updates. Any questions for me on those items? We can move on to the marketing and public relations report if there's any general questions. Manager Holler can answer them, or I, and if not, we have a suggested motion for approval of the brochure series bid.
Mine, right?
I'm thinking
Yeah.
about that.
I was just looking. I was like, is that me?
Marketing, yeah, that's
me.
probably yours.
You
yeah.
remember that exactly.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
was trying
We're
to
still,
as well.
no, I agreed. I was looking. All right. I move to approve KK Stevens Publishing Company as the lowest responsible bidder for the 2020-2021 brochure series, and to accept the bid for the total base bid in the amount of $93,067.86, and to authorize myself to execute and deliver the agreement. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And Manager Holler, would you like to share some comments on the process and the recommendation?
Sure. We received 7 bids, and KK Stevens was the lowest. They are our current printer. We have been using them since 2016. We've been happy with their work and have no complaints. For comparison purposes, this year we've paid $42,812. That compares to what the bid is at $46,533 a year. So this is an increase of about $4,000 a year on the bid. But they are the lowest.
Isn't it 93,000?
That's for 2 years.
Oh, 2 years.
Did they provide any basis for the increase?
No. They went back and reviewed the last bid, though.
Yes. It's public, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Coyne,
Aye.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach, Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel, Commissioner Harrington.
Yes.
That's all I have unless there's any questions under human resources.
Moving on to the next agenda item, we've got our finance report, and I will turn it over to Commissioner Leduc.
Okay, and I will turn it over to Superintendent DeAngelis. Thank you for preparing this report.
Thank you, Commissioner Leduc. My written report begins on page 13 of your packet. We remain on track to meet our budget projections and continue to be encouraged by the revenues. Otherwise, I don't really have any highlights. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I noticed on page 25 of the packet in the 2019 cash position projections that seemed like what the projections were and the actuals seem to track pretty closely. And I was just wondering, how does this close tracking compare with the past couple of years? Has this been pretty consistent?
It's pretty consistent. What we will see is as we get through the summer months and we work through the budget and determine, usually the biggest variation is on the capital side. If there are certain projects that I think we included in the budget, for example, the Emerson Field project will kind of true up and know that project is going to shift to a future year. So as we do that, we'll start to see the cash projections look better than the budget. And then any, of the operating performance is also there. I can. So the second half property tax installment is due on August 1st. So between July and August, there's always a lot of variability because big chunks come in at the end of July and the beginning of August. So it's hard to predict. It looks pretty close, but we're actually a little lower. I don't want to say this. The actual line is slightly below the projected because of how we had the tax receipts come in. It's hard to see because it kind of peaks on August 1st, but I do expect that the actual will be above projected because of these capital projects.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioner comments, questions? So with that, then I'd like to move on to the topic of the voucher list and move to approve for payment vouchers in the total amount of $712,706.25. And do you have any more to share with us on that?
No, the list is posted on the website.
Any
If
commissioner
anyone.
comments or questions? All right,
Go ahead.
I'll vote.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach, Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tunnel, Commissioner Coyne, Commissioner Harrington.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell with the recreation.
And I refer over to Superintendent Armour.
Yes, my report begins on page 26. I'll just give a few highlights and updates. A couple of the events listed in here, the sand volleyball tournament for teens that was held for the second year in a row and almost doubled in size, so that was great. The Wildwood Nature Center had the Country Farm Fair event, and that's always a really fun event, and they had great weather this year, so that was helpful. We also hosted the basketball event for the 6 County Senior Olympics. Gail and I attended that. That's always very inspiring, I think, and so many active seniors in the community. It was really fun to be a part of. Also definitely wanted to highlight our DCFS renewal for preschool. That is a lot of time and effort from the staff to prepare and have all the paperwork ready and go through all the rooms to get ready for the start of our school year. So thanks to the staff for doing that. Additionally, we're gearing up for the fall. We had fall registration in August, so earlier this month. The Beyond the Bell open house last week. Preschool open house is tonight. Still wrapping up the pool season. Last day of camps officially tomorrow. And the fall programs start primarily after Labor Day. I did also want to mention it'll be in next month's board report, but we did start our initiative of getting out and about with the new fitness center fees. So we're at Edison Park Fest this weekend. Definitely think it was worth it when the weather was cooperating. You know, there were a lot of people coming through and asking questions. So that was, I think, well worth our while. So we'll be hitting up another, I think, Norwood Park Festival upcoming. Besides that, I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you might have on the report.
Commissioner Harrington.
I'd like to start out with a thank you to you and the staff for your hard work in accommodating the pool opening at Hinckley for an additional time frame after the summer was supposed to end due to mainly in part to the D64 schedule being extended. I know that that is very difficult to do in terms of finding staff when the high schoolers are already back, but I've heard a lot of great feedback from the community. And I really think it's valuable in how we were able to adjust and really work hard to do that. So thank you. And on
Yes, it
top,
was very busy on Monday.
yes, I've heard. I heard there was Hinckley was crazy.
So,
I also know that we're almost, I think, to the end of camp, right? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. And I know you'll be reporting out on that from some of the preliminary projections and looking at revenues and gauging positive feedback as well. It looks like it was a very successful summer season, and that we were offering programs that certainly were demanded, and that we had some great enrollment. And so I think kudos to you and the staff for creating programming that was of high demand.
Thank you. It was difficult to staff these extra weeks, but we've definitely seen some additional revenue from that as well, which is the bonus part of that. Yeah, for camps. Not pools. We're not seeing any additional revenue off of that.
other comments, Commissioner Grau.
Second on Harmony's comments, for sure. The pool, that's great that you could figure that out. Just excellent. I just have a question since it looks like we might have a short meeting tonight. I read about the DCF certification of nature preschool and how that's going to lower our class size. And so you can add classes. Can you just like say how you can? It looks like we have to decrease the number of students but you're adding classes. Can you just explain all that?
Yeah, there's they have a per square footage amount of children. So we took registration based on the fact, assuming we're going to become DCF certified. So they're going through all that paperwork now. So we didn't want to jeopardize any, it may be a little one or two more. But to assist with that, staff added some smaller classes that are, a little less time frame. So that we wouldn't have to turn people away from similar programs. So we're still having that age group programs, like an extended time frame, not just a 1 hour class. So we offered a different class that won't be DCFS certified to be able to accommodate those that still want a nature preschool type program.
But it's not full-blown nature preschool is what you're saying.
Correct. And it won't be in those classrooms. They'll either be in the classroom across the hall or at the nature center when there's space. There's not always space there.
Interesting.
So we're hopeful that we can accommodate a few more, and if that's the case, I think people would jump at the chance.
Yeah, I just didn't realize there was a drawback to getting that certification. I was kind of sad about that.
Yeah. Well,
So
we can
not do it.
think about. No, I mean, I think we want to have our preschool programs equal with that certification. You can consider another room in the future.
Right. Just another example of you being nimble, trying to figure it out to give people what they want.
Anybody else? Commissioner Ledoux.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was also, when I saw the drop in enrollment for nature preschool, I was also a little sad, especially since my daughter just completed that program and I love it so much. I was wondering, how does the enrollment for the nature play school, the alternate program, like how does that match up? Does it?
I did ask that, and they're still taking enrollment. So they said that would be in the next report, so we can kind of compare the two. And I asked to keep the preschool numbers plus that program, so we can look at those side by side.
And then I had just a couple other quick things. One is, I love that there's a lot of like kindergarten afternoon programs, like kindergarten capers at the nature preschool, or I mean through Wildwood Nature Program, and like the little chefs and the little scientists and all those. But I was noticing, and I actually had heard this feedback from another member of the community, that almost all of them seem to be in the afternoon, and there doesn't seem to be as many in the morning. And I was wondering, because, obviously there are a number of afternoon kindergartners, what the reason for that was.
For kindergarten programs?
For most of the kindergarten programs being in the afternoon and very few of them being in the morning.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, but I can check with staff if they have, it might be classroom space, because then there's not as many preschoolers in the afternoon programs, and they go home and take naps.
Right.
So then if maybe that's the space
Their
issue.
parents are lucky they take
Right,
naps.
true. So that might be part of it, because I know that the rooms are just at a maximum there. So that might be a factor, but I can find out for you.
Because as the mother of an incoming kindergartner, I'm very glad to see programming, but I was just like, there's not a lot in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I guess my one other question is on page 30, where it has the total memberships purchased and the new memberships. I saw that new memberships for July 2019 was almost double July 2017 and July 2018. And I was wondering
For the activity center.
if you knew, for the Centennial Activity Center, and I was wondering if you knew how many of those were non-residents.
I don't,
I
but
was wondering if we were already seeing a slight effect from the recruiting efforts after lowering the non-resident fees.
that's the Centennial Activity Center.
This is
Well,
The fitness
senior
center
center.
is.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry then.
No,
I
that's
was
okay.
totally thinking that was the Centennial Activity. No, it's the
I did
Centennial.
actually, we had a budget
senior
meeting with the manager, and she was talking
think it was
about,
the center.
Okay. I am so sorry.
at the activity center, we just had that conversation because already in August, there's 16 new members. So we had the conversation that there's just a lot of new people who, they're doing some recruiting efforts too. And there's just a lot of new people moving into town and finding out about us through some of the recruitment efforts. So I think we're a very well-known commodity as far as active adults and senior programs. So we've definitely seen a bump in those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a senior center. Sorry about that.
You should join.
Hey, I'm not that close there. I am a member of the fitness center, but I'm not. I still have a few years before I start signing up for the STAR programs.
Well, I would amend to say that the Centennial Activity Center rocks. It's got a vibe. It has an energetic staff, and it's good. It really is good.
I'll pass that along.
That means a lot because it's been such a huge turnaround in the last, as we all know, in the last 6 years.
Maybe
Staff.
everyone doesn't know, but
No,
it has
right.
been.
I agree. You walk in there and you can.
Why is everybody looking? It has a vibe. Yeah.
Thanks for putting a picture of me eating a donut in the.
I saw.
Thanks a lot, Margaret.
I did ask Amy about that, and she said she told you she was.
And I said, oh, well, I thought she was kidding.
You look good eating that.
Oh, yeah. I look like I needed it.
I snuck out of there with mine.
I didn't even get it out of the box yet.
Any other discussions from any commissioners for Superintendent Armour? Okay, hearing none, I turn it back to Commissioner Harrington.
And in Commissioner Leach's absence, I will thank him for that later. I will now take on the Buildings and Grounds report. Superintendent Wolf, would you like to share some highlights from your written report?
Actually, my report's on page 35. I don't really have anything to highlight, but if there's any questions about anything in the report or otherwise, I'd be happy to discuss. I guess I should highlight that we did complete the OSLED application.
That was my question.
Yes, I should do that. My apologies.
That was give you the highlight.
It was
kinda significant.
It is significant. It's off my list and already on to the next thing. So, but we did. Manager Meunier and I completed the application, and it was turned in, delivered on Monday morning to meet the deadline for the OSLED application. a few things that, as we, kind of wrapped up the last few details of this and looked at the project as a whole in ways that we could make sure that it was bringing added value to the community and to the users of the park. A few little things that we had modified about this were we made some changes to some of the paths to narrow some of them down to make them a little more, streamlined, a little more economical. And also we included four cornhole boards, like permanent cornhole, as well as a concrete ping pong table. And so these amenities would be nearby the picnic shelter and be available for either picnic rentals or just people that are out in the park. We've seen this at other places, and they've been, popular. And we've actually had some requests and people ask about those sort of things in the past. So, not all of the pathways that were shown before are shown on this. Some of them are things that we will include as we go forward as a alternate in the bid, but we wanted to continue to be conscious of the budget. And if the budgets are appropriate and we can fit those in, we will. But we wanted to stay true to what our budget was and everything that our main priorities and goals that we had on this project, which focus in on the center of the property. So. But if there's any other questions about that, there was just a couple of kind of minor tweaks to this as we were finalizing it.
Anyone have any questions? Commissioner Grau?
Do you bring your own cornhole bags?
Yes.
You do?
Mhm.
Okay, and same with ping pong?
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner questions?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
When do we expect to hear on the grant?
They don't tell you, but if you go gauge it on past years, it's usually sometime January-ish.
Okay.
And we'll hear before if we become, if we're invited down to Springfield to present as a finalist.
Right.
So that should be, I would think like October, usually October, November. It's different every time, but it should, that if it follows the same type of schedule.
Any other commissioner comments or questions? It's never easy to remove an amenity from an existing park, and I know that this board and staff heavily discussed and deliberated that. I wanted to commend the staff for coming up with a really great holistic view of a very heavily utilized park to come up with not only improved amenities, but also a proposal for new amenities. And fingers crossed on the grant. Commissioner Cornhole Tournament and Pickleball Tournament. All right, we're now moving on to item number 2 in this section, the adoption of ordinance number 19-5, disposal of surplus property. I move to adopt ordinance number 19-5, which is an ordinance authorizing the sale of used personal property owned by the Park Ridge Park District.
Second.
Discussion from Superintendent Wolf.
So as you're all aware, we successfully completed the lighting upgrade at South Park at both Kalina Field and the tennis courts this year. We requested that the lights that were there that were recently added, LED lights, be returned to us by the contractor. We want to take this opportunity. We don't have a use for them in any other location in our park. We want to take this opportunity to see if we can sell them through a government auction site to see if we can recuperate some of the expenses related to that. So.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Wolf? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach, Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuttle, Commissioner Coyne, Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington.
Yes, sell those lights. All right. In relation to the South Park lighting request for proposal, I move in accordance with Section 33E9 of the Illinois Public Contracts Act that I determine in writing that change order number 1 to the contract with Verity Energy Efficiency Experts in the credit amount of $10,000 is in the best interest of the Park District and is authorized by law, and that such written determination be provided by myself to the executive director, who then shall execute and deliver the change order.
Second.
Superintendent Wolf.
This also in relation to the South Park LED project. The project was bid out and it came in under budget, but as part of the contracted amount in the bid, we had included an allowance. Those allowances give us flexibility throughout the project and making sure that we're staying on track with the timelines and the goals of the project. So when we don't need to use those allowances, they're returned via change order. Any change orders at $10,000 or in excess of $10,000 by law need to be approved by the board. So,
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Wolf? May you call the vote, please?
Commissioner Leach, Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuttle, Commissioner Coyne, Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington.
Yes. In relation to the Hinckley Park tennis courts and parking lot project, I move in accordance with Section 33E9 of the Illinois Public Contracts Act that I determine in writing that the change order number 4 to the contract with Chicagoland Paving Contractors, Inc. in the credit amount of $108,421.40 is in the best interest of the Park District and is authorized by law, and that such written determination be provided by myself to the Executive Director, who shall then execute and deliver the change order.
Second.
Superintendent Wolf.
so similar to the last change order, this is again an allowance, unused allowance related to the Hinckley Tennis Court and Parking Lot project. We've been working with the contractor to wrap up a few very minor details in the project, but nonetheless have been in constant communication. We're near the end of those very minor nuances, but important things for us that we decided it was time to execute this change order to close out this part of the project. I will also point out that this includes $7,000 worth of liquidated damages, which is because of their inability to complete the project on the time schedule set forth. So they were penalized, or that we had liquidated damages actually for, I believe, $500 a day on that. So.
Any questions for Superintendent Wolf? That's $118,000 that goes back into the budget. Have you already spent it for next year's budget?
The quick answer to that is yes. If you may recall, if you were on the bus tour when we went around and I identified the funding source for some of the overages, the anticipated additional expense for the Woodland project this year. This was one of those large chunks of money that, yep. So.
Thank you. All right, may you call the vote?
Sure. Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuttle, Commissioner Coyne,
Aye.
Commissioner Grau,
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc,
Yes.
Commissioner Leach, Commissioner Harrington.
Yes. And now I turn it over to Commissioner Grau for policy.
Wait,
Oh,
I messed up.
sorry.
I have a question
Oh,
for
I'm sure.
Superintendent Wolf. Back in his report, on your comment about the shoreline work at Main Park. So I read through what you say you're going to do there, and is that also, will that help with the non-promotion of the algae growth because you'll be controlling? Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it will have some improvement there. We're improving a shoreline on the east pond. It'll be the northwestern corner of the east pond. So it's an area that would have runoff from a Park District property, but that area in particular has been really had a lot of buckthorn in it. And what had happened with the buckthorn, which is an invasive shrub tree for us, it's really kind of caused a situation where it's shaded out the ground cover and caused a lot of the ground to be bare and start to run off. Some of the neighbors there had given the impression, or had the impression, that we were actually dumping sand and things out there because of the way it was running off and into the pond. So while it's not directly work that we're doing directly to help with the algae problem, it will always help in that regard because we're going to be putting native plantings there and it'll help filter those things out. So I would also mention that the company was out, started this year with, or this week with the sediment removal on the bottom of the pond. So we anticipate to finish that up here in the next week or so, and we'll be done with the west pond at that point. So.
Thank you.
Are we able to share an update of the sediment removal as we did in years past? I think it's really helpful. I think, Margaret, you had done that kind of public education about why there was this big, massive bag out there. And I think it's just very wonderful to share. If you wouldn't mind, that'd be great to do again.
Yeah, I think I had a recent communication with a resident that maybe I could share with Margaret if she wasn't on that, but
That's great.
that might be
All
helpful.
right, and now I will turn it over to Commissioner
Well,
Grau.
I officially have nothing. And the reason for that is we were going to discuss the social media policy tonight, which would have been a great night to do it. But two key players weren't going to be here, our attorney and Rob. And I just didn't think that it was useful to have that discussion without everyone on board. So I apologize, that we're not doing that. But I hope you all agree that that's the right decision. So.
Can I add one thing too? About, we had a great meeting with the 3 of our main affiliates on the affiliate policy agreement. So we had soccer and football, or not soccer, sorry, football, baseball, just football and baseball. And so we made some great progress and had a lot of good conversation. We're going to meet separate. Soccer couldn't make it, and so we're going to meet with them. And then we all decided to regroup in October. So we're getting close. Our new goal is the end of the year to have something to the board. So I'll send the board the update once we get the updated comments in, and I can figure out some language. I'll continue just to send it to you so you can keep updated on what we've changed. I know it gets a little tricky with all the track changes, but I'll send that out to everybody so you have it.
Thank you, and kudos to Executive Director Mountcastle and Superintendents Farmer and Wolf and their staffs, because I know that this has been a long time work in progress since last November-ish, and working with all of the varied partnerships that we have in the affiliate spectrum. So while we met with a few of them this evening, I know that there's been a lot of work done to meet with organizations like Wilderness Scouts and Princesses, our Art League, and other garden club. And so this has really been a collaborative process about our partnership. So thank you for all of the work that you've done to date. All right, Commissioner Coyne with an intergovernmental updates. Items to update. All right. Any other communications or correspondence? Seeing none, any new business to bring to the attention of the board? And now I move to adjourn to closed session for the purposes to discuss land acquisition per 2C5. We will reconvene to the regular board meeting to adjourn the meeting. And then may I have a second?
Second.
It's a roll call vote.
Commissioner Tunnel? Commissioner Coyne? Commissioner Grau?
Yes.
Commissioner Leduc?
Yes.
Commissioner Leach? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington?
Yes. Me, I wrote all. I now reconvene the regular board meeting of the Park Ridge Park District Board of Park Commissioners. It is still August 22nd at 2019, and the time is 8:25. I move to adjourn the meeting of the Park Board of Commissioners. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.